Hello everyone and welcome back to Gaming Alchemy. My name is Locke Vincent and I am here to break down a game for you. The game we are talking about today is Nidhogg. It came out on January 15th and I've just been playing the hell out of this game. It's very interesting because it's a sword fighting game, sort of. Sword fighting tug-of-war game made by Messhoff, and it has been in development for a number of years, about 4 years, because it was originally going to come out in 2010. It was under the title called Raging Hadron, and the designer, Mark Essen, decided that he wanted to, get it right. He wanted the slow game. He wanted to be able to put everything he could, and he got some help. He got some great music help and some networking and just another designer to help him with this game. And we have Nidhogg. What it is a one-on-one fighting game that has you pitted against another sword master, fencer, whatever you want to call it. You both have a sword. You can lose your sword and you can fight hand to hand. There's dive kicks, there's rolling, there's snapping of necks. It's awesome. It's all one-hit kills, which is hilarious because when you see the game in the footage, it's a very basic looking game. It's 8-bit art, and it's definitely gameplay over style. Well, gameplay over, I guess, graphics, but the style is really cool. I dig it. Definitely old school there. And it has this tug-of-war element where you're pulling back and forth. When you kill your opponent, you are able to run to the left or the right depending on which character you are. And the object of the game is to not just kill your opponent, but to get past 3 or 4 screens on the other side, and then you win. So what happens is, if you die, the other guy gets priority, and then they are able to run. And basically, you go back and forth like this, and it's just awesome. It's pure, and it's a great party game that it's got local and online multiplayer. And we just had a great Nidhogg Fight Club that went swimmingly. I just couldn't believe how many people enjoyed it because of the simplicity and just being able to pick up and play and sort of learn as you go. So let's get to the breakdown and check out the first game that Nidhogg breaks down into. Here we go. Alright, so we have learned that Nidhogg is a one-on-one fighter that sends you moving, right to left or left to right against another person. So the first game that sort of came to mind that I thought of was from my childhood, and it is Karateka. And this came out on the year of my birth, 1984, and made by a man, Prince of Persia fame, Jordan Mechner. And he made this while he was a student at Yale, and it's done very well. It's even had a remake, a modern sort of a remake that they updated the graphics with. So Karateka, the similarities that Nidhogg takes from Karateka is this one-on-one fighting. Of course, in the fighting game genre, it's usually always one-on-one, but it was very basic for Karateka. It was one of the first games where you had this, fight against another guard, and it's really cool. It's the most basic form of combat, which is really neat. And I think Nidhogg is interesting because it makes this into a tug-of-war where you are moving left, right, depending on if you are attacking or defending, that sort of thing. In Karateka, you are trying to save, you're an unnamed protagonist trying to save a princess or love interest, going up against Akuma's castle, and he's sending out endless amounts of guards. And it's funny because in Nidhogg, it's kind of the same idea. You get infinite respawns. There's no lives in Nidhogg because if you die, you respawn instantly. And not instantly, your opponent gets to run a little bit, and that's how you're gaining ground. But you will respawn, and you're basically like another guard in Karateka. So it's really cool to see this sort of evolve. While it looks very basic, there is an extreme amount of strategy to this type of game. And what's nice about that for fighting games is I like introducing these types of fighting games to people because you don't have to know moves. It's the same idea with something like dive kick. You don't have to know moves. You just have to know basic button presses. There's 2 buttons. And in Nidhogg, it's pretty cool because you can start not knowing how to play the game, and by even after 5-6 matches, play for an hour even, and you're doing some really cool things, whether it's, you know, rolling and sweeping your opponent to, you know, take them out, or jumping off a ledge and dive kicking down, or just, you know, it's really cool. You can see a person grow, and it's amazing to see someone do that. So Karateka, that's the first game that I've broken Nidhogg down into. Let's turn things over and check out the second game in the second part of the breakdown. Alright, so we've broken down the first part of Nidhogg into Karateka, you know, hand-to-hand, 1-versus-1 combat against an endless amount of guards. Next, the other game, we got to talk about the weapon-based combat. And what game do you think of, what fighting game do you think of when you think weapons? And it's obviously Soul Calibur. You know, coming out with Soul Edge in 1996, the first iteration of that game, and we've had 6 major games in the series with some various spin-offs, but really it's all about the weapons. And Soul Calibur has always sort of been around, and again, some of the, you know, installments are better than others, but really swinging a sword around, swinging an axe, nunchucks, whatever weapon you're using in Soul Calibur, it's always fun. And I've always found Soul Calibur to be really easy to get into. It's very hard to master, but it's got a weird sort of plateau where you can be pretty decent at it, and I've always liked that. It's pretty enjoyable. It's not hard to pick up and play, which is awesome for fighting games. I find when you have that high, steep learning curve, and something like Street Fighter discourages people. But Soul Calibur has always been there, and Nidhogg is here to just even simplify things even more. You don't get a choice of weapons. You just get your one sword. If you throw it at your opponent, or if you lose your sword, you got to go to your fists, and it goes from there. The funny thing in Nidhogg is that you actually run faster when you don't have a weapon. So that's a strategy in itself, is throwing the weapon and just trying to run to the end of the screen and, you know, sort of outmaneuvering your opponent. But you can't do that in Soul Calibur. You got the ring outs, and you can't lose your weapon. But in Soul Calibur, they introduced a thing called the parry system, or deflection system, which is super important because you would always get that person that would just button mash, and sometimes they would win, and you'd be like, Astaroth is just walloping me, or Nightmare, or one of those big guys who just can keep swinging, and you don't know what to do if you don't know how to dodge very well. They introduced the parry system, and you basically just parry their attack. And it's not a block, because a block just blocks the damage. The parry puts them out of position and then gives you an opening. And I found this so satisfying when playing against people who would just button mash, because you could just sit there and wait and then hit the parry right at the exact moment. They'd go out of position and you basically get a couple free hits. Nidhogg, we see this. They have an ingenious parry system. When you are holding your sword, you can go to 3 levels: high, medium, and low. You always start medium, and then you can move it depending on where your opponent is attacking. If you move your sword into an opponent that is attacking low, and you go low, you will parry their sword, they will lose it, a big flash goes, and you know you have them on the run. So it's an ingenious system, because you can sort of wait and sit back there. You don't always have to be the aggressor. And I think it's a really cool system in Nidhogg, and that's a really neat parallel between that and Soul Calibur. You gotta have that parry system when you're talking about weapons. Let's wrap things up, let's get back to the summary and finish off this breakdown, shall we? Alright, so that does it for the Nidhogg breakdown. We've got 1-versus-1 weapon-based combat that can move into hand-to-hand based combat. It's this tug-of-war pulling back and forth against your opponent, where one hit kills, you're done. One hit, you're dead, which this makes it very exciting. Nidhogg is a super exciting game, and it's best played with someone beside you so you can razz them, when you actually kill them, and run them to the other side of the screen. So the biggest thing I want you to take away from this is that it is a fighting game that, don't judge a book by its cover here. Don't judge this game based on its looks, because it is a very unique style that isn't going to appeal to everyone, but it is super easy to pick up and play, and it is hilarious, and it's fun, and you can spend hours, hours just playing this with your friends, and having a great time, have a couple beers. It's nuts. Nidhogg is a great fighting game that I think should be checked out by everyone because it's just got some awesome roots. You know, Karateka, Soul Calibur, mash it up into this just crazy fighting game. So if you like the show today, please give it a thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel if you enjoy this type of content. Of course, we've got the new stuff coming out almost every day of the week. We've got the podcast, we got other Let's Plays, we've got the stream going. Tons of stuff coming out on Gaming Alchemy, so you can check it out whether you like it on, YouTube's easy. You can go to the website, catch us on Twitter, Google+, Facebook, whatever your favorite social network is, go check it out there. But no Snapchats. Other than that, I think that about does it. Again, thank you so much for watching. Appreciate all the support. Suggest a game if you want it, broke it down. Put it in the comments or tweet it at Gaming Alchemy, and we'll see what we can do about breaking that down. Take it back to the lab and crack it open, see what we can get. So that does it for the show. We'll see you all next week. Thanks for watching.